Hello, welcome to my water filtration experiment. The following slides will show you pictures of the water filtration experiment. I did this experiment with my two children who are 3 and 4. I asked my kids questions based on pictures of the layers of the earth and they helped me to assemble the filter. I explained to them that we get water from a well in the ground and at our house and it needs to be filtered. So they were interested to see how that works and where our water kind of comes from and how it goes through that process. We went out together, we collected some water, the kids had fun putting some dirt inside of there to see kind of how we could go from this picture that's displayed to something that might be and somewhat drinkable. The first step they wanted to do is they poured the alum into the water. They poured the alum into the water so that they could have a little particles contract to it, and they watched it in the bottom kind of pull it together. So that's the first thing we did. Then we kind of looked at this picture here, and I displayed this picture on the computer as they were going through it, and they got to look at the materials we had and figure out how they could make a filter to get through this to try to make the water drinkable. I explained in the picture that these were houses on here, and that's kind of how our house is set up to where we're getting water from underground. Oops. So for the first step, the kids were asked to interpret this picture that I just showed you in the previous slide to the materials and assemble from the bottom up. So we first decided that we needed something to catch the clean water in. My daughter on the left decided that we needed to put a full cup under there. We put the next cup on top and we asked them how the water was going to get through the cup. Since we are drinking in a cup, it holds the water, so they decided we needed to put holes in the bottom to get the water through. So we poked some holes in there. Um, then looking at the picture, they thought that the pebbles that we were given looked like the rock bottom on the bottom of the picture, so they wanted to put the rocks on the bottom to make it work. And we used the coffee filter to hold the rocks in and make sure everything was good. Looking to the right there, we had the charcoal was next. Based on the colors in the picture, they thought the charcoal was the next closest thing to where it needed to be. Um, During this process, I took the time to explain to them what the rocks and the charcoal do to help filter out the water. They were interested to see. They just wanted to pour the water in, but I explained to them that we needed to go through a couple different things and see maybe what they would do. So we moved on. So next thing, they thought that the yellow in the picture looked like the sand, so they wanted to put the sand on the top. I asked them what they thought the sand might do. Um, my son thought it was to play in, as my daughter thought more of this sand would help to try to capture some of um, the particles in the water like it does in their sandbox when there's always sand and dirt in there on the top of the sand instead of at the bottom. So she kind of related it to a real life situation as we went through. Next, we took a look at the cheesecloth. My daughter thought that the cheesecloth kind of looked like grass or the roots that she sees in the yard and in the picture. So we put the cheesecloth on the top. She wasn't too sure what that cheesecloth was going to do until later when we saw it. We poured the water into it. So here was our final assembly. We kind of had it all layered up: pebbles in the bottom layer, charcoal up in here, sand, and then we put the cheesecloth on. Um, Now they were excited to see what happens once we poured the water in. So once we poured the water in, my daughter was able to realize that the cheesecloth definitely helped grab some of the bigger particles and material out of the water before it drained down into the rest of it. They watched it as layer and layer came through. They learned that the cheesecloth took out the biggest pieces, sand started to filter it, and then it went through. When it came out, the picture on the left here was the first time we filtered it. Um, when they got to the bottom, they both were interested to see the water go back through and was wondering what would happen if we filtered the water twice. So I thought, hey, great idea for them to see what happens as it goes through. So the water on the right is once it went through a second time through the same filter, and it came out just a little bit cleaner, and they noticed that it was definitely cleaner afterwards. But um, after that, we had a little bit of a discussion about how that works in real life, where we get our water from, and um, this video or these pictures were a couple days ago, and I was able to reiterate with the kids and ask them again, and they kind of did learn and they remembered the steps that it went through, so I thought it was a pretty interesting activity for them. I had to guide them through a little bit so the inquiry wasn't fully there, but with them being 3 or 4, they needed a little help. Um, but I think it was a good experiment with them, and I think I had fun doing it with them instead of just me, and it took a little bit of time. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and we'll see what happens from there.